Hello folks, Chris F.E. Jackson here. I've seen this Brian Cox video that was broadcast on the BBC Two some time ago regarding the world's biggest vacuum chamber out in Cleveland, Ohio. And it's where they dropped the, I think it's a bowling ball and some feathers. And so without further ado, I'm just going to start playing this video and talk the way through it, and as I invariably do. So, enjoy.
This is NASA's Space Power Facility near Cleveland, Ohio, and it is the world's biggest vacuum chamber. It's used to test spacecraft in the conditions of outer space.
It's used to test spacecraft for conditions in outer space. So, they're actually telling us that outer space is a near perfect vacuum. So they've built this facility to test their spacecraft before putting it up into outer space. So therefore, people, outer space is a vacuum. We don't know that. They're just telling us that. So we accept it. So there we go. Space is a vacuum.
And it does that by pumping out the 30 tons of air
Tons.
in this chamber until there are about 2 grams left.
2 grams of what, Brian? Shit. Dust. What?
And it's kind of got an eccentric construction, which is part of its history. It was built in the 1960s as a nuclear test facility to test nuclear propulsion systems. And
To test nuclear propulsion systems back in the 60s. Wow. I take it then, Brian, that this chamber is now inert. There's no fallout. There's no remnants of any radiation whatsoever. I've not seen any other detail regarding nuclear drives, unless you're using nuclear drives as opposed to stating the ion drives. But who knows? You're just taking license with words, really, Brian.
And that meant that they built it out of aluminium to make the radiation easier to deal with.
So, why would aluminium make it easier to deal with radiation? If you're containing radiation within something, why not build it out of lead? But the cost would be humongous, wouldn't it? Or steel, or lead lined. But no, aluminium makes it easier to deal with. No explanation of that, Brian. Just you're stating something which is not based on any fact. Give us some scientific fact as to why aluminium is a lot easier to deal with nuclear fallout than anything else. I'm sure if they built this out of steel, the costs would have been astronomical. Sorry, no pun intended there, but the cost has to be a major implication of this, surely.
Aluminium is not the best thing, the strongest material to build a vacuum chamber out of.
No.
So they built an outer concrete skin, which is part radiation shielding and part an external pressure vessel, so that this thing can take the force that's present on the outside when it's pumped out to the conditions of outer space.
So let's think about that for a while. So we have an aluminium chamber, irrespective of what the size is. That is, you know, you could be construed as flimsy, but they built an exterior concrete shell. So that concrete shell must be holding the aluminium vessel then. It's not very well explained, Brian. Here we go.
Galileo's experiment was simple. He took a heavy object and a light one and dropped them at the same time to see which fell fastest.
Here we go. Beautiful.
Now in this case, the feathers fell to the ground at a slower rate than the bowling ball because of air resistance.
Right.
So in order to see the true nature of gravity.
The true nature of gravity. Brian, listen. If I had the equivalent amount of feathers that weighed the same as the bowling ball, then they would have fallen at the same rate, yeah? And it's the rate of change of descent, you know, before you get to your maximum. Isn't it? Isn't it, Brian? Yes. Yes, there we go. Right. So, let's think about this some more. Carry on. I agree, wind resistance has a factor in it, yes.
We have to remove the air.
Yes. But just one more thing, the nature of gravity. Did you hear him specify the nature of gravity, as if gravity is natural? It's very impressive. I wonder if those doors are aluminium as well. Danger. Low oxygen. Do not enter when light is on. Please stay in there, Brian. No, he's not. Oh.
It takes 3 hours to pump out the 800,000 cubic feet of air from the chamber.
Okay, we
Right.
dropped 2 millitor in the last 30 minutes.
Okay, 2 millitor, that's 10 times, or 1 times 10 to the minus 2 torr in half an hour. So they don't tell us what the resultant vacuum level is. Just that they dropped to a 2 millitor within half an hour. So you'll have some roughing pumps. Are they doing this with diffusion pumps or cryo pumps? You know, it must be mega expensive to evacuate a chamber of this size. Now, to get it down to something like 2 grams, I would have thought it would have taken more than 2 hours. Now, that's especially if that chamber is, to all intents and purposes, hermetically sealed. But, you know, who am I to say? Who am I to question? You know, I'm just watching a video that's been presented by one of the world's largest broadcasting corporations and one of the oldest. So, you know, take their word for it.
But once it's complete, there's a near perfect vacuum inside.
Look at the way those pipes were, wobbling. Who's shaking that pipe? It's almost the purveying as if something is happening to get down to vacuum. Look, I mean, why the director has actually chosen to actually show this little piece. Let's have a look at this again. Quick, make sure you rub those pipes, man. It's working hard.
There's a near perfect vacuum inside.
Perfect near vacuum. Shut up.
10% open. Station 1, go for drop.
Go for drop.
30-1, pressure set point at 240 psi. We are go for drop.
Go for drop.
10, 9, 8,
This is
7,
good. This is good.
6, 5, 4. Cameras on. 2, 1. Release.
Release. Now, did you see that? If there was no wind resistance at all in this perfect vacuum chamber, which, you know, is nearly the same as outer space, you did actually see some resistance there in the feather, didn't you? Perhaps it's the 2 grams, Brian, that's hanging around this piece of feather here, you know? Now, all I can see here is one feather. Just, you know, but there's something else further down. We'll just play this on a bit. There we go. Fluffy, fluffy. Stop. Just going to put that back again, just to see the release one more time. Right. There we go. Ooh. Just let that go now. Now watch. There's a lot more feathers there now, aren't there? There's a lot more feathers there now. Where do they come from? Bending up. Change of light. Oh, look at that, as if magic.
Look at that.
They came down exactly the same.
Wow. Wow. Look, 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 look. Holy mackerel. You know, as if these people have never done this experiment before. And it's almost this is the first time they've seen this happen. Come on. Holy mackerel. Holy mackerel. I've never seen them before in my life. Yes, mate. Yeah, you won't look at the camera, will you? You're just looking at the screen. You don't want to be filmed, but you know you're part of it, so you know. Ah, play on.
Exactly.
You're back on the side.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Move nothing.
Exactly.
That's
Big
just
cheesy grin on his face.
Isaac Newton would say,
Yeah, Isaac Newton would say. Okay, I'm just going to play this back again because what I would say is that if I was carrying out this experiment, I would want the camera to follow from point of release to point of hit. I wouldn't cut the camera. I'd want to see it completely. But what they do here is they cut the camera at certain points, and it's almost as if you, without even thinking about it, it's as yes, it's gone down and they've hit at exactly the same time. Let me just play this back again. Let's get back to here. Well, I think they do play this again, so I'll just play it on a minute.
that the ball and the feather fall because there's a force pulling them down. Gravity.
Gravity.
But Einstein imagined the scene very differently. The happiest thought of his life
Was it?
this. The reason the bowling ball and the feather fall together is because they're not falling.
You must be really strong, Brian. Let's have a look at how you. That's it. Look at
The
that.
bowling
No effort at
ball
all.
and the
Yeah.
feather
Yeah.
fall together is because they're
You're not wobbling at all, are you? It must be really like that bowling ball, Brian.
standing still. There is no force acting on them at all.
Really? Well, I don't know. I'm sure they're going to play this again. Yes, there they are.
He reasoned that if you couldn't see the background, there'd be no way of knowing that the ball and the feathers were being accelerated
And-
towards the earth.
Cut. There you are. So they've actually. Let's get back here again. Off they go.
He reasoned that if you couldn't see the background,
Get ready
there'd be
for
no
the
way of
cut.
knowing
Get ready for the
that
cut.
ball and the feathers were being accelerated towards the earth.
Cut. Second camera. Bang. Now, wouldn't you really want to see a continuous fall? They're changing cameras or what have you. They've got a license to do whatever they want here. All right. So you never. People can argue about this till the cows come home. Oh, you're just making this up. No, I'm sorry. True science would be showing us the full drop, unedited. You know.
So he concluded they weren't.
They weren't. Okay, people. Again, now, just disappointed that there was no complete shot of that drop. So it's worthless, really is. It's just more rhetoric and unbelievable they can put this out. Because if you just watch this, if I watched this a few years ago, oh yeah, that's great. I wouldn't be picking it to pieces. Not at all. You know, it's almost the giving us exactly what we expect to find. So there you go. So it's not a continuous drop. It's not a continuous film of the drop. So in essence, that's not a true experiment, Brian. We haven't shown us the true experiment. You big lying shill, yeah. Anyway, people, just thought I'd get it out there to put a stop to people using this as a reference for gravity and the nature of gravity. So if anyone cares to pull this up again, just bear this in mind. It wasn't a complete full shot. Sorry. That's enough said on that. Goodbye.